Now, the other thing about trouble with intimacy and really longing for a girlfriend who understands me, but I seem not to have the patience to give. I think that's beautiful because it's such beautiful self knowledge. Like, I know lots of people who are nowhere near that. Like, I haven't spoken to this person, but just the tone of what they're writing, it takes a very big heart, I think, to feel like you, um, to know that you're not giving as much as you want to. Because you couldn't know you're not giving if you didn't have it in you to give. It's the beginning of giving, is to go, oh, uh, I know what the potential is. I know what it is to give, but I just can't do it. That's you're almost halfway there. Because even just saying that, even just writing it to another person that you don't really know, that's a huge thing. There's lot of power in that, of feeling it. I mean, it's very easy to kind of look at yourself and yeah, it is judgment. You could say you're judging yourself and going, "I'm really failing here. I'm really doing badly." But to have the knowledge of that to start off with is incredible. Like you to be able to, because I really get this sort of feeling of like, oh, I, I am letting myself down, or I wish I could be that person. Like just even having that wish, that's the beginning of it. Because what comes along pretty soon after that is the reasons that are getting in the way start to become apparent. I mean, I don't like to make predictions, but just from my experience, just writing that and going, oh, I'd love to have a partner. I'd love to have a lovely girlfriend. I long for a girlfriend who understands me, can partner with me. But what did I say? I seem not to have the patience to give. That will come. That will absolutely come. I mean, I think it's probably a recipe for disaster, expecting people to understand you. Because, well, it's hard enough to understand yourself at all, even closely. I mean, I've spent most of my life not trying to understand myself, but self reflecting. And, I know I probably know a couple of percent of myself, and the rest is a mystery. And I'm all right with that. And I'll keep looking. So to expect some or to have this idea that somebody else should understand you, um yeah, that's just going to make you miserable. um and it's I understand it, like I've a feeling that rather than it's to do with being understood, it's the feeling of being seen and being heard. That's really important, the feeling of being seen and being heard. And it can be very painful if you don't feel seen or don't feel heard by anybody. Um, and if you're on your own, yeah, it can feel like that. But in my experience, the most helpful thing to do with that is, well, there's a few things. With emotional pain, um, the most efficient way to deal with it is to face it. And it can be very hard, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. And just depending on where you're at and what's going on, it can be too much. I get that. So I'm not talking about extreme, where you need to see a professional about it, where you need to go and see a psychologist or get help. I'm not talking about that. Um, When it gets to the point of feeling like it might harm you or you might harm yourself, then you need help for sure. But just the normal kind of stuff. And it's understandable why we don't do it because, if you put your hand in the fire, I mean, who puts their hand in the fire? But anyway, just as, you know what I mean. If you put your hand in the fire, you're just going to pull it away automatically. So if you stumble onto an unpleasant feeling, you're just going to want to recoil from it. That makes perfect sense. Except it's the other way around inside. It's like, if you had an emotional fire inside, that was your emotional pain, and you accidentally put your finger in it, and then you pulled your hand away. It's like the fire follows you, and you can't get away from it, and it gets brighter. And really, the only way out of it is through it. So, as much as you can, the most efficient way is to face it as best you can. And just face it for as long as you can, for as long as it's there. I don't mean you to be a martyr about it or a masochist or anything like that. Just face it as much as you can until it dissipates or till you go through it. Because you do go through it. You just burst through. It's amazing what passes. Everything passes. Good stuff, bad stuff, everything passes. So if you can face it, you'll get through it the most efficiently. Right, how did I get there now? I'm getting a bit lost. Oh yeah, being understood and not being heard and not being seen. That can be very painful. So yeah, if you've got that going on, the more you face that in yourself, the less you'll want your future girlfriend or partner to provide that for you. One thing I've discovered is that if you can get out into nature, you can get a certain amount of reflection from nature. You can be seen and be heard a little bit by nature, which is lovely. So you can get a sort of a reflection there. But yeah, if you go into a relationship expecting your partner to understand you, yeah, that's not going to go well because it's so hard. Because we are so immersed in our own realities, not like self-absorbed. I don't mean that. We just are. It's like I sort of think of it as everybody is in their own little reality bubble, and sometimes the bubbles come close together, and we can communicate with each other. But mostly they're very isolated little bubbles, just kind of. So if you can get any kind of communication going with people, it's a miracle, I think, that we can communicate at all. I mean, I don't want to go off on a big tangent about reality and existence. Maybe that'll be for another time. But any kind of communication where somebody says, "Yeah, I understand what you mean. I think I get it." That's amazing. That's a miracle. That's the thing to focus on, not on this idea that someone could completely come into your little reality bubble and completely understand you. In my experience, that's not going to happen. And it's a lot to put on somebody else. So when you say trouble with intimacy, I'd have to ask you a little bit more about that, so I can't really address that. But yeah, the main thing is this thing of you, like if you have it in your heart that you have this idea of like, yes, I kind of know what it is to give, I just can't do it. Don't focus on that I just can't do it. Just focus on the fact that you know it, that you know what it is to give. It'll come. It will come. The fact that you know that is fantastic. And I know it's probably hard and it makes your heart heavy. Like, oh, I have it in me to give, but I just haven't got the patience. Well, it'll come with patience. Ironically, with patience, it will come because it's a seed. You've got that seed within you of giving, and the fact that you feel like you haven't got the patience to express that, that's the beginning of it, beginning to unfold.